Good morning, everybody. Hello, hello, hello. Happy Monday to you all. How are you surviving that daylight savings time? Do you do daylight savings time in your area? I know not everywhere does, but we do here in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. My mother-in-law was telling me, though, that they don't do it down in Arizona. So do you live in an area that does not do daylight savings time? If so, you're probably feeling just fine this morning, while the rest of us are all a little bit groggy and saying, why does it feel so early? Because it is. It's an hour earlier than we're used to. Well, welcome to the Stash Buster series. My name is Bradie, and I am very happy to be finishing up the Undone quilt, which you see on display behind me. I know those of you that have been watching along are shaking your heads thinking she didn't even touch that quilt this weekend, but I'll tell you why. I have a really good reason just a little bit later. If you are unfamiliar with the Undone quilt pattern, it is a quilt that we have been working on the past couple of weeks. You can find it as a free download on the website at sparrowquiltco.com. And I keep threatening that this is the last day that it's going to be available, but it'll probably be there a couple more days, being as I didn't get it finished. So if you want to download that pattern, then you're more than welcome to go there and input your email address, and we'll reply with an email that has the pattern attached so that you can follow along. You'll notice that the pattern you see on the website has a very different colorway. We did that quilt in the Thrive fabric line, designed by Natalia Bonner and her mother for Moda Fabrics, and it turned out really, really great. It has a really nice lattice look to it, whereas we were going for more of a buffalo plaid look with these colors that we have going here. And those kits are also available on the website at sparrowquiltco.com. Over the past week or so, I've been adding as many of our fabric collections as I can right to the website. So if you've seen anything in the past that you're interested in, go ahead and check it out under the fabric and pre-cut section. On the far right of that menu, I've got a big listing of all of our fabric collections. And we've also slowly been adding all our quilt kits to the website. So there's lots of really cute stuff there. Make sure you check it out. Now, this weekend, we came to the end of our workday on Saturday, and we got a message on Facebook. I mean Matt. He had volunteered to donate a charity quilt to a an auction that's going on tonight here out in Beaumont. Beaumont's a little town that is just south of Edmonton. There's a young lady here in Beaumont. She's 8 years old. Her name is Janaya, or Janaya maybe. And she's got inoperable brain cancer. So they're having a big charity auction for her tonight at one of the local restaurants, and we have donated a quilt to that. And Matt also offered to make a quilt for that young lady that will be for her to keep personally. So that is what we were working on all weekend, pressing fabrics and cutting stuff out. And we're just working on a really nice checkerboard to do around that little mermaid panel that you guys saw me quilting a few weeks ago when I was doing the machine quilting and stuff. So anyways, that is what we were working on all weekend long. It struck me as quite a worthy cause. So I'm afraid that the Undone quilt had to be tabled in preference for something a little bit more important. But I'm sure you all understand now that you know the story, right? And if you didn't see Matt's adventures that he posted yesterday, and maybe a little bit on Saturday too, check him out on the Facebook page. You can see where he was sewing all kinds of little strip sets. And they're just really cute, really bright and pretty, and very Eastery, I must say. So if you're new to the show, to the Stash Buster series, I hope you'll check out our prior videos that we've done in the past. We have them on the website at sparrowquiltco.com. We have them on the Facebook page, and we also have them on YouTube. And if you're at YouTube, please go ahead and subscribe to our channel. I'm really trying to up those subscribers. I definitely want to reach that 5,000 goal, and even better than that, further and higher numbers than that. But if you guys could just help by subscribing and get us up to that 5,000 mark, I'd be ever so grateful. And I've brought a couple books home today that I wanted to show you guys because they are just new to the shop and they are super duper cute. So the one that Landon has on display here is called Making Connections. It's by Dory Hrushka. I met Dory when I was in Houston, and I'm sorry, Dory, I don't remember how to say your last name, but it is a free motion quilting workbook, and she's got loads of great little designs in there. It's described as 12 design suites. So it's combinations of different designs that you can use together, and you just can go through and work your way through. She gives some sample quilts, sampler type designs that you can create in order to practice your free motion quilting on. And she makes it so easy. I'm hoping that you can see these well, but just breaks it down with step 1, step 2, step 3. And that makes it really visual and really easy to follow. So that, you guys, is going to be my giveaway today, this Making Connections free motion quilting workbook. So how do you guys qualify to win the giveaway? You know it. You're going to share this video. Share it with all your Facebook friends. If you're not familiar with that, underneath this video is 3 options: like, comment, and share. So if you could go ahead and do that, then you will qualify to be entered into that draw. This next book is called Playful Petals, and it is all petals applique quilts. And they've all got this kind of orange peel shape to them. We just had Darcy do one up. Oh, it's this one right here. Hopefully you can see it. It's not the full quilt, it's just a strip of it, but you can see the background is kind of a checkerboard. Can you tell if I can see that all right there, Al? Should I? Maybe I'll find the bigger image and I'll show it to you. But like I said, all the quilts are made with that little orange peel or petal type shape, and they're just all simple, 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 and cute. So much cute stuff in here. Where's the one I want? Because you can never find the one you want when you want it. There we go. So this one is called Scattered Blossoms. Hopefully the light's not shining too brightly on there. Does that look okay on your screen now? So that's one that we have in the shop that we're going to be doing a kit on, and it is really pretty. Like I said, it's just got a checkerboard background, white and gray squares, and then you applique all these little petals over the seams, and it just looks terrific. And this is another new book that we've just gotten in. It's called Jelly Babies, and it's all quilts made of 2.5-inch strips that are baby-sized. We had Darcy do one up, and it's called Meadowlark, and it is so cute. We had it on display about 5 minutes, and a lady walked in the door, and she's like, that's coming home with me. Yeah. He was in for the class on Saturday. So here it's shown in quite muted colors. It's very, very pretty, and you can see the little bird applique in the center. We did it much brighter in a Riley Blake fabric line called Happy Days, and it is so vibrant and full of life. It is beautiful for those of us that are hoping for spring. We had a beautiful weekend. I shouldn't complain about the weather, and it's just been warming up daily, so I've got no reason to complain, but we've had quite a cold winter. I'm ready for it to be over. How about you? I bet you are too. So let me know if you're in one of those areas that does not participate in daylight savings time. I'm curious to know what areas do and don't participate. And my question of the day, being as we've got a new quilt coming up, I showed you guys the other day, and we talked about being perfect for using up clothing or scraps for memory quilts. So I'm wondering, have you ever made a memory quilt? Has someone ever brought you the clothing of a loved one that's passed away? Or memory quilts can also be made out of baby clothes. We want to memorialize that child's baby time, and we get a lot of memory quilts that are made out of baby clothes, and we also get a lot of memory quilts that are made out of clothes of people that have passed away. But you can also do a memory quilt out of all the concerts you've gone to. There's so many different reasons to do a memory quilt. So have you ever made one, and what kind of pattern did you use? Typically we just do big squares, like a 12-inch or 16-inch square, but sometimes when you have baby clothes, you got to be a little bit more creative, because the pieces of those itty bitty baby clothes are so small, and you can't really get large squares out of them. So you got to get creative and do something different. Well, I'm going to get started on sewing together this next row. I have put together 1, 2, 3, 4 rows. I did get a little bit done, you guys, I promise. And what I have done is I start at this side of my row on the left-hand side, and I just start taking the squares off of my design wall. And so this square right here is from that very bottom corner, and it always stays on top, and I add everything beside it to the bottom side of the row. And of course, my very last piece is going to be this little setting triangle. So that's how I keep myself kind of organized. And then once I've completed this row, I don't press them yet at this point because I want to be able to make my seams nest together. I'll place it back up on my design wall, and then I will move on to the next row, and that just helps me stay organized so that I don't mess anything up. As I'm going, I just want to make sure that I am sewing to that. I'll turn it around like this. I'm sewing on point, so I'm going to be sewing them together like this, and I always have to make sure that that bright red or geranium colored square is up at the top. Oh, really? I thought Canada-wide. Interesting, interesting to know.
They're technically in one time zone, but they observe the time of the next time zone over, so they stay at like daylight savings time all year.
Interesting.
I looked it up.
What? And are we starting daylight savings time now, or are we ending daylight savings time? Like, when is the beginning? Are we saving light in the winter? We must be, because that's when our shortest days are, right? So we must have just ended daylight savings time. I'm just so curious about it. I just want to learn. I'm just curious about the facts, and I could have just looked it up myself, but I'm sure one of you knows, so you can share with me, right? Don't forget to share the video, guys, so that you can be entered to win this really pretty Making Connections free motion quilting workbook by Dory H. And that'll be a great addition to your book stash. You will love it. And it's not necessarily just for long arm quilters either. These are skills that you can use on your domestic machine.
Starts today.
Today's the beginning of it.
End of November.
Interesting.
Commences on the second Sunday of March. Standard time restarts on the first Sunday.
Interesting. I always thought that daylight savings time started in the fall so that we could get the most out of our winter daylight. But it's the summer daylight.
It's not summer.
That's true.
I don't know who's worldwide.
It's so interesting to me how different the daylight is in different areas of the world. I grew up in northern Alberta, so like 2.5 hours north of where we are now, and we would have days in the summertime where it was almost midnight and we would still have almost full daylight. You know, we're not nearly Alaska or anything like that, but the stuff that you've probably heard about up north where the days almost don't end, it felt like that because our days were so long. And then as a kid, we traveled down to California and we went to Disneyland. And it was like 6:45 and it was pitch black. I couldn't believe how dark it was in the middle of the summer there in California. I just thought the sun shone all the time in California. But it's not north enough for that, I guess. Isn't that strange? Oh, well, okay. So I am going to be pinning only one intersection on these blocks. It's just down here where the brick color is going to meet that little black square. And I am reminding you today to change your needle. I've been doing a lot of sewing lately, and I wasn't starting to hear that funny thud, 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 thud. You know the sound that your machine makes when it's trying to get through fabric and it can't quite permeate through that fabric? That is what tells you it's time to change your needle, but I am a fan of changing my needle with every new project. I really do feel that a needle is a small price, and I want my machine to be working as optimal as possible. So I am using today a Schmetz needle. It is a 75, and I buy them by the 100 pack because I go through so many of them. And I really like a fine needle when I'm piecing my quilts. When I am domestic quilting, we have to go up in size because we are going through so many layers, and we're often using a thicker thread as well. So we want to go up a needle size. I will usually use a 16 when I am quilting, and a 75, I believe, is equal to a 12. I hope I'm not making this shit up. But anyways, we want a finer needle for when we're piecing because we're using less layers and we're using a finer thread. So make sure you change your needle frequently, guys. Like I said, about every new project. if you've just done a baby quilt on a brand new needle, you can probably get away with another project. I had a student in one of my classes once that was telling me her grandmother taught her to take the needles off and use sandpaper to sharpen them. However, she mentioned she was from the Depression era, so she was conservative with everything and saved and reused as much as she possibly could.
So where do you buy sewing machine needles by the ton?
I think, I don't know where from some wholesaler, Kathy, is where I got these ones. I'm thinking about bringing them in. There is a wholesaler in Vancouver that's just started carrying a new line of needles. I'm going to bring some in and check them out and see how I like them. They swear they are just as good as Schmetz. So we're going to go ahead and give those a try. And then I'll let you guys know what I think. Okay, so my seams are lined up perfectly, just how I want. And like always, I am alternating my direction of sewing. So that seam, I started up here. This seam, I will start down here and go up. I just want to make sure that everything stays square and we don't start getting any sort of distortion or warping. It's always more obvious when we sew long strips together, all in one direction. You will get them, they'll start looking like an hourglass and like, you know, straying off to one side and twisting and turning. But that's always in the back of my mind, so I alternate direction of sewing for all the sewing I do, just to make sure that it turns out square. My used needles go into some sort of container, and I just save them up until my container is full, and then I toss them. But I do put them into a plastic. I usually save my old needle holders that they came in, and I just mark on there with a Sharpie that these are garbage needles and just fill them up. Yeah. Yep, that's a good idea too. Lennon's saying that she always wraps them up in tape really, really well. I've done that in the past when I didn't have a container. But you can save old prescription bottles, anything that's just got a lid and can contain those sharp needles. We're always concerned about someone, you know, stomping the garbage down. I saw my dad doing that once at work. He was stepping on the trash to make it condensed into the trash can, and I was glad that I had put a rotary blade in there earlier, and I had put it back into its case before I threw it out. But I was a little bit alarmed when I saw my father sticking his foot into the trash can, and quite relieved that I had taken those precautionary steps. Because I would feel really bad if someone ever hurt themselves. It would be a really terrible thing. Oh, a water bottle. Yes, that's smart. I've thrown them in a coffee cup even, like for not having anything else. Put the lid back on it. You just never know where your trash is going to end up. Like our garbage at the shop goes into a dumpster out back, but there are a lot of homeless people in our area, and I know they're in and out of those bins. So we got to take steps to be careful. Make sure to protect everybody, no matter the point of our trash disposal. Well, guys, I hope you're sharing your stories of any memory quilts you've made with me. And I sure liked reading about all your machines the other day. That was... Aww. Finishing up Mom's quilts, that's nice. I'm sure it would be a bit emotional, though. Like, I can't imagine. And so, you know, I've heard so many stories over the years about quilters who've picked up projects and finished them up for the families of a quilter that's passed away and that sort of thing. And it's always so nice when someone can help out with that job, because it'll now be so precious to the quilter's family, right? I'm excited to be into my neutrals, piecing those into the rows. Makes me feel like I'm getting somewhere. And I've slowly lowered this design wall so that I can get at the pieces that are up higher. I hope you guys can all hear me today. Please let me know if you can't. I've got this microphone a little bit higher on my top than normal because I didn't have somewhere to pin it to. And hopefully you can all hear me okay. Let me know if you can't and I'll move my microphone around. All right, well, hopefully you've been watching all along, but if you're just joining us, we are working on the Undone quilt pattern, and that's the quilt that you see on display behind me here, partially assembled. And this is a quilt that's part of our Stash Buster series. It was designed by Sheila van der Linden, and it finishes at about 68 by 75 inches, so it's a nice size. It will definitely be a generous lap quilt or even almost a twin. You'll be able to use it very, very well. And it's simple. I know it looks tricky, but it is very straightforward. It consists of some disappearing 9 patches and some double disappearing 9 patches. And you may not be familiar with that type of technique. So if you are just joining us, then go ahead and check out our videos on YouTube. They're called Quilt Block Studio, and I just do a short and sweet version of how to do a 9 patch and then how to do the double disappearing 9 patch. I have to do just the regular disappearing 9 patch, kind of the in-between stage as well. But those videos are a little bit shorter, considerably shorter, and a bit more to the point. It's not so chatty. You could use dome needles.
If you're sewing paper patterns for quilting.
Oh, sure, just to perforate. Okay, so the suggestion is that you could use, like to perforate the fabric or to perforate the paper. Huh. And that's funny this comes up. So I think what this quilter is suggesting is that you would lay paper over your quilt and you would perforate it prior to laying it on your quilt, and then you would stitch over it. And because it's already kind of perforated, it would rip away easier.
Oh, no, to pounce. Okay, so you stitch over it to put holes to pounce over.
Gotcha. Okay, so I think I've got this. What you're saying is that you would have a design on paper and then you would stitch over it to create holes in the line design. And then you could pounce over that paper in order to get the design onto your quilt. That's really smart. Then you could actually just draw your own design and photocopy it, use it again and again and again. That's really smart. I like that idea. It's funny that you bring that up because we've just been looking at this really great product by Patricia Ritter. It is a tearaway quilting design for your domestic quilting. So what she's done is taken a bunch of her pantograph designs and she's printed them onto a special paper that's really thin and tears away easily. And then we would lay it out on our quilt before we started domestic quilting, and then that gives you a line to follow. You would baste the paper right onto the surface of your quilt. It would literally become a 4th layer of your quilt. And then once you've quilted over it, you're just going to rip away the paper, and it just leaves behind this gorgeous design that you have stitched. So we will be doing some tutorials with those very soon, but it's funny that that just came up because we've had our eye on those all weekend talking about them. Oh, a memory bear. What a nice idea. I've seen pillows done too, like memory pillows, maybe with a pocket on it. And we've done some stuff like that before too. Pillow's nice because you can actually hold it in your arms. All right, we're almost done this row, you guys. And I've got to remember to alternate my direction of sewing so that I don't get any warpy seams. Nobody likes warpy seams. I don't know what it is. Poor Maddie was sewing all weekend long, and I kept taking this one strip set back into the office while I would take them out and press them. He had one strip in there that was upside down, and then he wouldn't notice, and he'd bring it back out to me, and I'd bring it back in, and strip set still sitting in the office. It has not yet been fixed. I thought he was trying to tell me, well, we'll just leave it in there, but when I said, okay, this is the 4th time, he's like, I gotta fix it. We're not putting it in the quilt like that. But I have seen that done before where somebody felt the print side was too strong, so they reversed it and used the wrong side of the fabric in their quilt. If it works, why not? Go for it. It's your quilt. Do what you want. My bobbin is getting low. I'll be changing it here shortly. Now, let's see here. There we go. So yes, please share your stories of memory quilts you've made, and please share our video here so that you can qualify to enter the giveaway. And we choose a winner at the end of the show, which will be around noon Mountain Standard Time. If this is your first time joining us, then welcome to the Stash Busters series. This is a movement of sorts that we came up with in December in an attempt to help quilters use up their stash and the fabric that they already own. And so we're offering these video tutorials and patterns that are free while we're working on that, while we're actively working on that quilt. If you've missed out on some of the prior patterns, then they're all for sale on the website and you can just buy them there. It's an instant PDF download. But we do this show on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 10:30 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. And on Tuesdays, we're going to be starting a Tuesday's tool Q&A. And tomorrow I was thinking about doing our little Lenny quilting machine. That is one of the best tools. I know not everybody has one, but it's been a while since we talked about long arms, so I want to bring that in and maybe show some of the cool rulers that we use, and there's all kinds of tools that go along with long arming, that's for sure. Yeah, I think Sheila had just put in there that you needed this many squares or you needed that many squares, and she did it that way because her original one was really scrappy, so scrappy. It was not organized like this at all. So I guess because the idea is that you're bringing it out of your stash, you may not have 3.5 meters of a specific fabric. So we give it in squares so that you can pick and choose from your fabrics as you please. And just keep in mind that, you can figure out how many squares are in a strip of fabric, right? But that is a good idea. I'll talk to Sheila about adding that.
Did you find the missing block for this quilt? Or did you make another one?
I took out a row. I took out the bottom row. So I've got a couple of extra blocks. They're over to the side here off camera. You cannot see them. But that's what I did, is took out a row because I didn't have time over the weekend to make that last block. There is a mistake in the pattern. It has you make the 10 blocks and then cut them into 4, which yields 40 blocks like this, but we actually needed 41. So Sheila is going to work on adding the instructions for one more block, or just editing the pattern in some way to make it right.
Someone made theirs out of a quilt that is falling apart using the parts that have maintained their integrity.
Oh, nice.
It was for grandma's quilt.
Aww.
Instead of going like making your clothes with the quilt,
Yeah. I like that idea of just reusing an old quilt and making it into something new. There's so many old quilts hanging around that are just threads, they're falling apart and that sort of thing. It's nice to give them a new life. We've done that a few times, taken in an old quilt and maybe stripped off the quilting and quilted it onto a new back or put a new batting in it or whatever needed to be done. Replace some of the deteriorated pieces, it's nice to bring them back to life. Are you cold? Thank goodness there's quilts all over this house. Miss Landon is chilly. I forgot to mention that Landon was here. She's here every day with me. Behind the scenes, my little producer and technical support. It's Landon that reads me your questions, so don't be shy. Leave those questions, leave those comments. She shares them with me, and I do my best to address them. I often forget to repeat the question, so so if you hear me blurting out something that sounds like it's a reply to your question, it probably is. Softball jerseys, nice. That's one we don't see here very often. We don't have a lot of baseball players. We get lots of hockey jerseys, soccer. Huh? Yes, Landon plays softball. She's yet to accumulate enough jerseys to make a quilt, though. I have no jerseys. All right, I have made it to the end where I am going to now attach my little setting triangle, and I'm just going to line it up like I do the regular blocks. Make sure that my intersections are pinned together so that it looks nice and pretty. What is going on there? Oh, that's fine. Okay. Make sure my seams are going where they're supposed to. And that way everything looks better. Now, I've told you guys before, even when I don't get things just right, and I'm not going to show you, but I've got one intersection down here in the very bottom corner of the quilt that's not bang on. And I don't know, flaked out, fruit fly brain, and didn't pin that one. So it has got a little gap there, probably 1/8 of an inch, and it's very visible to my eye. But I'm okay with it. I'm going to live with it. It's not the end of the world if our seams don't match up perfectly. I am not perfect. I don't expect my quilts to be perfect. And while I strive not to tell people about my mistakes, I know that you guys will understand.
Susan wants to know what would you suggest for the backing of the quilt made out of hockey?
Made out of what?
Hockey jersey.
So Susan is asking what a good suggestion is for the backing of a quilt made out of hockey jerseys. Before I address the backing, when we make a quilt out of hockey jerseys, we will typically put a stabilizer on the back because jerseys tend to have those little holes in it. And I'm hopeful that you know exactly what I mean. So not just a stabilizer layer behind it, but sometimes we'll put like a fabric stabilizer so that you can't, poke your fingers through or whatnot. And it just gives some extra strength there because those jerseys are spineless. They've got absolutely no, nothing to them. They just, right? So you need something to make them a bit stiffer so that you can sew them. But for a backing, I think anything would work. On the back of our t-shirt quilts, just our basic t-shirt quilt, we do a nice high quality polar fleece. If the person wants to upgrade and have it quilted, then we can do flannel or a flat cotton, and then in that case we also put batting in the middle. But I think as long as those t-shirts had some sort of backing on the back of them, anything could go on the back of that. I hope that helps, Susan. But it's so great for kids to have that. I guess so many moms so excited bringing in their child's lifetime worth of memories, sports, and places they've been, and parties they've attended or concerts or whatnot. And so we give a lot of those. We get a lot of those at grad time. So that is going to be gearing up pretty quick here. I expect to see a lot of those very soon. All right, guys, don't mind my back. I'm just going to pin this row back up on my design wall here. Get it back in place so that I don't get mixed up. And this also helps me make sure that I've done that row correctly. If I see it back lined up with the quilt, then I know that things are done the way they're supposed to be. I had quite a few questions the other day about why the left side of the quilt was all wonky. And it's just because this is all getting pinned to a piece of flannel and it's not terribly stiff or secure. So it's just allowing things to kind of hang funny. It'll look much better once I've put the whole thing together. And we are getting really close. I might be almost halfway there. There we go. One more pin on this row and I should be good. All right, so this time my row starts with a triangle. I'm just going to put that one on top of the next square and I'm just going to keep layering them, pulling them off of my design wall here. But I'm going to lower this down because it's getting a little bit tall. Pretty slick, huh? That is my, yes, I did. A couple times. All right, fix that first. This quilt stand is by, we got it on a website called Pals Products. I know you're all going to be asking. And we use it around the shop all the time to hang our quilts. It has got the side rails and the top cross rail. It's fully adjustable in height and width, and it is just pretty slick, let me tell you, and it's doing a great double duty as my design wall this past little bit. So if you're interested in that, that's where I got that one, palsproducts.com. It was actually our friend Joanne who found those and brought it into the shop for us. Nice, Naomi. That's perfect. Oh, nice idea. I always like to put batting in my quilts, whether they're, regardless of what they're made of. I just find it's, I'm a cold person, so I need that extra layer. Okay, let's bring this down one more. I'm just too short to reach up there. Look, you guys, I am getting one of the very top rows pieces, so that is exciting. That means I'm getting somewhere. Nice. This row is the very bottom corner and the very top corner. That means we're in the middle. Good. All right, I want to keep that orientation so I do not get mixed up. 2 triangles on this row. Good, that looks right. Yeah, those hockey jerseys are just lifeless if you don't put something on the back of them. They're so tough to sew with. Got to do something to stiffen them up and make them easier to work with. And we've done a lot of memory quilts, a lot of t-shirt quilts, memory quilts. It's always funny to me when I see a mom dragging a big laundry basket across the parking lot. I know exactly what she's up to. But I find men, like middle-aged men, are the biggest, my biggest customer for that type of quilt. They are, what's that?
I think their wives are the customers.
Yeah. Lennon says their wives are your customer. But when the men come in, they are so emotional and so attached to those quilts, to those t-shirts, you know, whether it's a concert they've been to, or one man came in and he had all his fraternity shirts. And I had seen probably 3 or 4 other women fraternities, but this fella was just so in love with these fraternity shirts. And then he had a second set of t-shirts that he had been collecting. I think they were like Pride Parade. And he got 2 quilts made. So men may not appear to be emotional, but they are. They're very attached to their youth and their memories, I find. And then their wives get so sick of those worn out, stretched out, faded t-shirts taking up so much space in the house, whether it could be a closet or a dresser drawer or whatever. They are so excited when the husband finally agrees to get rid of these t-shirts and do something with them. But it's a nice usable item, a memory quilt. You know, whereas a drawer of t-shirts, you can't use that for nothing. Most of them are too worn out to wear anymore. Ah, thank you, Karen. This is called the Undone quilt, and it is a free downloadable quilt pattern that you can get at sparrowquiltco.com. Pardon me. You're just going to go to the website there and click on the banner across the top page and put in your email address, and we will email you a copy of the pattern. While I am thinking about it, guys, make sure that you are digging out all those tops, those quilt tops that need to be long armed. We are having a sale right now where if you send in 3 quilts for long arming, you'll save 20%. That is a good price. So dig out all those quilt tops and check us out on our website there. You can see all the designs that we have available, and if you have any questions, just ask. We're happy to help you with that. And we don't mind you shipping them from wherever you may be. We have finished quilts from all over the world, all over the world. It's pretty cool, actually. Olive, we won't be sandwiching this one. This quilt will be done on the long arm. We're probably going to do a diagonal plaid pantograph on it because it looks like diagonal plaid. I am going to do a tutorial on sandwiching a quilt, though, at some point in time. In fact, I'm kind of planning an entire video series of like A to Z quilting, start at the beginning and all the way through. So if you're interested in something like that, please leave me a comment. Let me know. There's so many different types of quilting. There's so many possible tutorials. It's never ending, in fact. Keep me busy for a long time, that's for sure.
Denny says the funniest memory quilt she has heard of is a lady and her son's new wife, like her daughter-in-law and the mom, made a memory quilt out of his underwear from toddler to adult.
An underwear memory quilt. My little hoodlum's underwear is so ready for the trash bin by the time I can peel it off their little bodies. I can't imagine saving them. That is awesome. That is one of a kind, that memory quilt. That is too cute. Yeah. What is this stain on this quilt? Oh. Yeah, Kern actually cleaned out his underwear the other day. Kern is our youngest. He is 6. And he says, Mom, these are so small, I can't even put them on my butt anymore. So, into the trash those ones went. They got such wonderful grammar when they're little like that. That kid, boy, he was asleep this morning. I could not get him out of bed. At daylight savings time, it takes its toll on the little ones. I'm kind of anticipating a afternoon of grumpy hoodlums. But I did make everybody go to bed early last night. But I'm very happy the days are getting longer. It was, I don't know, just a cold, dark winter it felt. I'm glad the end is in sight. We got spring break coming up here pretty soon. We'll have a full week of children at home, so we'll have to see how the show is going to work that week, guys. I'm not sure what we're going to do. Hopefully, I don't know, we might have to take a little break just because there's so many children in this house. and they will all be home. All right, we are making some good progress. Now, you guys, don't forget to share this video so that you can qualify to win that Making Connections Free Motion Quilting Workbook by the lovely Dory H. I don't want to brutalize her name if I'm saying it incorrectly. Growing up with a name like Bradie made me very conscious of other people's names and how they're pronounced and how they're spelt. And then I went and gave all my children weird names. My whole life, I would get to an appointment and someone would say, "Oh, I thought you were going to be a boy. Bradie's a boy's name." And I'm like, the only female Bradie I've ever met. And Landon, probably the only female Landon ever. Why did I do this to my children? I guess I can't just blame myself. Matt was involved too. They're not expecting you to be a girl, right?
Or like I introduce myself and it takes
Oh. Are you sure? Are you sure you're Landon? That's funny. And it's funny because I go by my middle name. My first name is actually Robin. So I've always gone by Bradie. And when I was in junior high, I sang so much that everyone called me Birdie. So then I was Robin Birdie. And then when I grew up and met Matt, and his last name is Sparrow, now when I get mail, it's addressed to Robin Sparrow, which is kind of funny. Oh, I always had braids when I was really small because my hair was always long. Yeah, and they just thought they were the funniest kids. Oh, you're wearing braids. That's why your name is Bradie. Yeah, that's it. When I was a tiny little baby, I was born with braids, and that's why they named me that.
Not bitter at all.
Good job. And I never heard that one before. I'm not bitter. Honest.
You want to show it pins, just pass the versatility of
Yes, I will do that on my next one. I'm sorry, guys. I totally forgot to show you my handy dandy fork pins. I just assume that you've all seen it, but I forget that sometimes there's new viewers that I've not exposed to fork pins just yet. So those of you who've never heard of a fork pin, I'm going to show you shortly here what it is. Ooh, oh my goodness, my bobbin ran out just then. Just at the end. That was the tail of it. I yanked it out. Not at all. Da, da, da. All right, so I'm changing my bobbin, and a reminder, guys, to change your needles. If you've been stitching away on that needle, or if you cannot recall when was the last time I changed it, it's time to change it. I like to change my needle with most new projects. If I'm doing something large, I can usually get away with a couple of small quilts. Every once in a while, I'll make these little minis. And you can do a few, absolutely. But we want to make sure that our needle is nice and sharp so that it can permeate through those fibers and get the job done. All right, this, I'm going to put it on some dark fabric so you can see it. That is a fork pin. Can I see it? So you can see that it is a U-shaped pin that has two very sharp, fine points. And I will show you in just a minute here how I use that to line up my intersections. It is more effective than using two pins on either side of an intersection. It just because of that U and that it's all one unit, it just brings everything together, kind of like magic. And so then I'm able to get those nice, beautiful intersections. And I sew very carefully when I am sewing over pins. I take my time as I approach the pin, and I just kind of walk over it with the sewing machine. If you looked up Matt's post from yesterday, you can see he's a bit more reckless than I. He just pounds over it. He doesn't even slow down. And luckily, we've never had a problem. I know a lot of you have shared your concerns about sewing over pins, but I think everybody just has to do what works for them. If you want to sew with the pin right up to that very last second and then yank it out, go ahead. That works too. I just find that I get really great results if I sew over the pins, and putting so much money into the fabric and so much time into the quilt, I want it to be just right, and that is why and how I can justify sewing over pins. So what I'm doing is lining up these intersections. And I can see here that these two seams are going to meet in the quilt. So I want to make sure that those seams are going to stay looking like a straight line once I've sewn them together. So in order to do that, I'm going to use these fork pins. And so I am going to line up my seams so that I've got one seam allowance pointing to the left and the other seam allowance is pointing to the right. And that allows those seams to nest into each other just perfectly. I will often stick my thumbnail or one of my fingernails into that seam allowance to make sure that it is in fact touching as close as it can. And if I open it up just a little bit, you can see inside there that those seams are lined up to each other really nicely. So I'm going to pin right here on either side of that stitching line. And that is what holds my intersection together perfectly while I sew over it. And I have done a lot of sewing, and I'll admit this slows me down. It makes me slower. There's no doubt about it. But speed is not my goal. Precision is my goal. I want it to look nice. I always put in my best effort, but I'm not going to kill myself trying to get it perfect. And if I do find that something isn't quite lined up perfectly, then I will usually rip it out at least once. I'll give it a maximum of 2 rips. If it's not good after the second rip, then it's staying. It's staying in that quilt. And I just chalk it up to a little bit of humility. Like I said earlier, I'm not perfect, and I don't expect my quilts to be perfect. But I always try my best at everything, so I think that it's important to try your best, but like I said, I'm not going to kill myself trying. Because that's just foolish, right? Like, it's just not worth it. And I find myself very discouraged if I can't quite get it right, if it's not perfect. If I don't just move on, then I get bummed out about it, and I don't enjoy the project, and I start to hate the quilt. Like my black and gold Bargello that most of you have seen, the lightning strikes. That baby took me 7 years because it was so problematic.
Get started, get discouraged.
Yeah, I almost set it on fire. Just kidding. I'm not. I really almost did. But it was just such a daunting task. But I finally got it all together and it looks terrific, and we quilted the crap out of it so it would lay flat. And maybe one day I'll bind it. Just kidding. It will be it belongs to our second oldest daughter, Tylee. And when I'm ready to hand it over, I suppose I can bind it. Not yet. The pattern has not yet been modified for the missing square. I texted with Sheila the other day. She was going to look into it. So what we'll do is add a correction note to the website on the Stash Busters page. I took off the bottom row of this quilt. That's an option for you too. A hunter's star. No, I've never made a hunter's star, but they're very pretty. A carpenter's star is just that one really big star. A hunter's star is like usually 2 fabrics where like the background is one and the star is kind of in the corner of the block. Maybe Google it. And it's usually a 2-color quilt that is just done in high contrast. Lots of half square triangles. And we've got this cool triangle on a roll, like triangle paper that you sew onto. I think that would probably be perfect for hunter's stars.
Oh, it's so many.
Yes, so many half square triangles, says Landon.
Oh no, and then
I
like the color choices make it.
Yes, it has to be very high contrast. And it doesn't have to be only 2 fabrics. You can use an assortment of fabrics, but I've seen a few that were just 2 fabrics. All right, we're almost at the end of this longest row of the quilt. We're straight up the center. That means we are making progress.
Brandon says, "Oh, so there was a missing block, and I blamed the dog."
Oh, Brenda, I'm glad you checked in. We showed Brenda's quilts last week, you guys. You can see them on the Facebook page and on our Instagram page. Brenda's here dog sitting while her daughter was on vacation. And she thought that block was missing because the dog had eaten it. So no, you were right, Brenda. We were short a block. I went laying mine out on Friday there and discovered that I was short one. So we've got Sheila working on the pattern to fix that up for us. But it's not the end of the world, is it, guys? Nope. Nope. It's not.
Cheryl says she just learned last week that the eye of the needle is the most important part to be able to get thread shredding. Shredding or nesting by the needle eye if the needle eye is sharpened.
Yes, Cheryl, that's a really good point. The eye of the needle needs to be appropriate to the thread you're using. If you're trying to use metallic threads and you just cannot get them to work, I want you to go up a needle size or even get yourself a top stitching needle. And sometimes they say those titanium needles are better for those metallic threads because they are stronger. And when you have metal running through metal, it is going to wear away and it's actually going to sharpen the inside of the eye of your needle. And that is going to lead to more shredding of your thread, which isn't that just great? So try either a titanium needle or a larger needle. That should help you out. I just avoid them entirely. Metallic? No, thank you. So pretty. I know. Leave it on the shelf where it's pretty. I'm such a wimp. I just stay away from things that frustrate me or cause me grief. I would much rather stay in my happy place and be a civil human being. I'm not fun when I'm a grumpy pants. But who is? Let's be honest here. All right. So I'll sew this last block and then we are on to the last piece, which is a setting triangle. Now make sure you've shared the video, guys. You want to qualify to win today's prize, which is our free motion quilting book called Making Connections. It is a great book full of loads of inspiration for your free motion quilting. And hopefully you found all our videos all over the place, but if you are looking for a more short and sweet to the point type of tutorial for these blocks, I want you to check us out on YouTube. We've got our Quilt Block Studio videos there where we just right to the point, purely tutorial, step A, B, C, D, and so on. And it just gets you through that quick and easy. If you're just after the pattern, then you're going to find that at sparrowquiltco.com. This is one of the last few days that you'll be able to get this one for free. I should be able to finish up sewing this quilt today, and then we will send it up to be long-armed in the long-arm loft by either by Dylan or my brother Bob. We've got a real family business. I don't think there's many employees anymore that aren't related to us. It's crazy how we started out in the front room of our house. And then when we moved the business out, it was really just Matt working there at first, but that's because I was pregnant all the time. And then it became Matt and I all the time. And then we hired Sheila. And then we moved to our new location and we hired Dylan as well. So then for a while it was just those four. And we're now up to 19 employees. Our three oldest children, my dad, our nephew, my brother, spouses and partners of our children. I hire everybody I can get my little hands on. And I tell you, I feel so fortunate that we have been able to build a business from the ground up and employ people that we know and love. It has been mind-boggling to me how this company has grown for us over the years. We are pretty fortunate, that's for sure, to be able to take a hobby and make it into an actual business. It's still a little bit crazy to me some days. I don't even need this on. I'm going to unplug the iron because it's making it tropical in here. Not that I couldn't use a trip to the tropics, but not while I'm wearing this big old sweater. Okay. That was one thing that surprised me so much about Houston. We were going down in the fall, and I honestly expected it to be fall, but it was plus 30. So everywhere was air conditioned, but you couldn't lay by the pool. You know, you'd go outside and it'd be hot, but there was this breeze that made it cool. And that's south, I tell you, it's something different. Nice to visit, I think. I'm not sure I'd want to live there. Although I do love the heat. All right, let's hang this block back up so I can make sure that I am on track and that I have not made any errors. And let's hope I don't pin to the curtains this time. I am just loving this quilt. And now we are going to have three completely different versions of the Undone quilt. The first one that Sheila did was so scrappy. You really didn't see much of the design like you do on this one. And the second one we did, or that Sheila made in the Thrive fabrics, that one had like a real lattice look to it. Or Undone, she was kind of envisioning a zipper coming apart, and it really does. If you look down the center of it, it's kind of got that look. And now this one's got a real kind of buffalo plaid look to it. So it's shocking to me how you can take the same pattern and make it completely unique each time. It's pretty cool. All right. I got 1, 2, 3, 4 rows and then a tiny little corner. We are doing well. Nice, 11:45 already. Okay, so again, now these upper rows, we are starting and ending with a triangle. So just make sure when you're putting yours together that you're keeping your triangles in the right position. Aw, thank you. No grandkids yet. Nope. Landon is just turned 23. She graduated from university last spring, and she's getting married this spring, but no grandbabies yet. Got a grandpuppy, some grand cats that we don't see. Now this triangle, this is where I really need to start paying attention. My triangles up till now have been long side sideways. No, this time the long side is going to be across the top. So I really, really need to pay attention. Oh, yes. So Landon is pointing out that my dark block is pointing down. I'm going to try and remember that. Hopefully I'll get it right. But I got a sharp needle and a fresh bobbin. I'm on my way. Now, hopefully you've been watching all along, but if you have not been, then I am looking for stories about memory quilts today. Have you ever made one? This quilt that we'll be sharing next, it's called Round the Rail. It would be perfect for making a memory quilt out of. And we do a lot of memory quilts at our shop. There aren't a lot of quilters that want to work with someone's old clothes, in all honesty. I quilt because I love the fabrics. That is really truly the reason that I got into quilting so deeply, is because I love the fabrics. And so the first time I had to do a t-shirt quilt, I was like, they didn't wash these shirts before they brought them in. They're a little aromatic. They're all worn out. And it wasn't a big deal. It turned out great. But they're not our beautiful brand new quilting cottons, are they? But I think what's important to remember is that that person is going to cherish that quilt so deeply. It's worth it. It's worth the time. I don't know who's calling me there, but I'm not answering. At least my phone's on silent. And I have hugged complete strangers, when they come in and they see their memory quilt ready to go and they just are so emotional. It's quite a precious thing to do for somebody, that's for sure. So it's worth it, you guys. If you're a quilter and someone asks you to do a memory quilt, it's worth it. You should totally do it. It may not be your ideal or dream project, but the reward from it is definitely worth it. Those are the best kind. Baby clothes memory quilts, there's little bits and pieces, and sometimes you can still smell that baby smell on them. Aw, that's nice, Maxine. A photo in it. We've done that too, and the only suggestion I can give is to stitch in the ditch on those ones. People don't like it when you stitch over faces in photographs. It's a little bit weird. Nice. Oh, Laura, that's so nice. We had a wife come in and her husband was in the end stages of cancer, so she had all his favorite shirts made into a quilt for him that was to comfort him throughout treatment, and he did pass away. And when he did, she gave that original quilt to his mom, and then she brought all his remaining clothes in for a quilt to be made for herself. And yeah, she was so very touched, and the husband's mother was very happy with us as well. We had a family bring in enough shirts. This was a big man. Like, his shirts were all 4XL. We got so many squares out of this man's shirts. And there was 6 grandchildren, and then there was his wife, and then his 2 actual children. So 6, 8. I think we made 9 quilts in total for that family. And they asked us to leave all the shirt pockets. And all the little boys, apparently, because she has come back in and to tell me about it since, the little boys stuff all their favorite toys into Grandpa's pockets. And they drag their quilts around with all their toys loaded up in there. And it's just so neat, the things you can do with it, to make it a good memory for the people that are still here and remember that person.
Cheryl made 9 table runners out of the mother's blouses.
Aw, runners. That's a nice size, actually. Not everybody can afford a great big quilt, so that's a good way to do it. One of the very first t-shirt quilts we ever did was for this young man. I think he was an eye doctor. And he was so young. Like, you wouldn't even have expected he was done university, never mind have gone to like 3 different universities. But you kind of get to know these people throughout the process of deconstructing their clothing and reading everything that's on their shirts and that sort of thing. And when the shirts were brought in, they were all folded so meticulously. I thought, wow, this boy's mother sure kept his shirts in good shape. And so he had been to 3 different universities and all these different events. It was a 64 panel t-shirt quilt. So it was king size. Like, it was big, 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 big. I think the only bigger one that we've ever made was a Spartan quilt. And you can see that one on our Instagram from not this past Christmas, but the Christmas before. Anyways, the young eye doctor, his mother came to pick the quilt up in the end because he lives in Ontario, which is several provinces away. And I said to her about how neat and tidy she had folded the t-shirts. And she said, oh, no, no, that was not me. That's him. He is that precise and organized. Everything that is left behind from him is like that. And I thought, my goodness, that's pretty impressive for a young man to be so meticulous like that. You don't see that very often. Although I have one in my midst. Our little Ziggy his room is always pristine. Love it. He's my little hoodlum that gets up and makes breakfast for everybody every morning. And I mean hoodlum in the best possible way.
Beth has memory quilts on her list for each one of the adult kids. She's got a large supply of t-shirts from their activities growing up.
Nice. It's such a nice gift to give your kids, Bev. And you'll get your closet space back. Because kids move out and they leave their stuff behind. Landon sure didn't. She cleaned her stuff out when she moved out. But, a lot of kids go off to college and they leave half their stuff behind. And then it takes up space in your room. And I guess we just don't have the room to leave kids' stuff lingering around. We have 10 children, in case you don't know. So when she went, luckily, she took all her stuff with her.
With so many younger kids, I don't have any leftover things.
It's so true. Yeah, Landon's saying that with all the younger siblings, you just pass things down to those younger kids because they can be used again. But I guess if a kid didn't have younger siblings, they would just hang on to their stuff, wouldn't they? I've really been trying not to hang on to everything. It's so hard to keep it all and keep it organized and keep it neat and tidy. There's just too many of them. All right, maybe I'll show my fork pins again. So I am just wanting to pin these intersections together so that they stay nice and accurate. I'm trying not to move too fast, guys. I'm sorry if it gets blurry. Sometimes the iPad has trouble focusing when I'm moving. Oh, so our internet must be good today. Sometimes when it's really cold outside, the internet doesn't work well. I don't know why the cold affects it, but... Oh, yes. And Maddie's at the shop today, so we don't have as much demand on the internet here in the house. All right. So here I have got 2 intersections that need to be pinned to one another. I want them to be straight across one block to the next. So I have nestled them so that they are just touching. I like to say they're in there kissing. And you can see I've just got them lined up as close as I can to one another. I've got the seam allowance that's closest to me pushed to the left. The seam allowance on the back is pushed to the right, and that allows them just to nestle really, really well. If I have them both in the same direction, then they tend to roll over and not line up nicely. So I'm just opening that up a wee bit so you can see, come on now, how they're touching inside. Just a tiny little bit. There we go. Anyways, I'm now going to pin those intersections together. And you can see how that fork pin just goes on either side of that seam and pulls those 2 intersections together really, really well. Now, I know a lot of you are not local, but if you are, I do want to suggest, if you're able to or willing to, there is a charity auction tonight. It's at Chartier Restaurant here in Beaumont. It is in support of that young lady that I was talking about earlier. She's 8 years old. She's got inoperable brain cancer. And so they're having an auction here in Beaumont for her tonight, for her family, to help support them through this really difficult time. And Matt and I have donated a quilt to that cause. There's going to be loads of other stuff there. If you are local, if you are able, please go on down. It's really, really worth your time. And it's just a really good thing to be able to help out if you can. And I'm trying hard not to cry. I'm such a baby. I can cry at the drop of a hat. But Matt and I are going to continue working on that quilt for that wee girl, for her to actually keep for herself and her family to have. But that's what kept me from finishing this quilt over the weekend. And I'm sure you can understand. That was a better use of my time, I think. And then yesterday it was beautiful out, so we had to take the kids out to the park for a while. Got some really great parks in our city. Now, probably one of our last opportunities for you to share the video, you guys, if you want to be entered into the draw to win the Making Connections free motion quilting book. I think I've been forgetting to alternate my direction. So now I'm going to do it just because I should. Again, line up my seams. Pin those little babies together. And we will be back again tomorrow with our Tuesday tool Q&A. So if you've got questions about a long arm quilting machine, how they work, the tools you use with them, any of that kind of stuff, that's what I'm going to be working on tomorrow. Doing a video on the Lenny machine at the shop. And then on Wednesday at 10:30 a.m. Mountain Standard Time, we will be back with a brand new quilt. As part of the Stash Busters series. Pardon me. All right. Got one more block to piece in this row, and then there is a triangle, and I must remember the orientation. It's a miracle that I even remembered it this long. Okay. But I made some good progress today with you guys. And hopefully you guys are making good progress too. As always, please, please send us your photos of the quilts that you've made out of our patterns, whether it's stay centered or almost houndstooth. Maybe you're making this one right now. I would love for you to email me a photo at info@sparrowquiltco.com, or you can share it on the Facebook page. You can share it on Instagram and tag us. And I love to share those with all of our fans on social media. So hopefully you don't mind if you're sending it to us. Let it be known that we will be sharing your great work with others. And make sure you check out our website. We have got, yeah, that's right. We've got all our prior tutorials and videos on the website under the Stash Busters tab. And so you can see all the prior stuff that we've done. If you want to check us out on YouTube, everything is over there as well, including the Quilt Block Studio videos where we do just a short and sweet, quick little tutorial on each individual block, whereas our Stash Buster series is more geared to the entire quilt construction and finishing, etc. Gail Bradie? Gail, what a fabulous last name you've got. You're our winner today, Gail Bradie. So what I need from you, Gail, is please message us privately there in the Facebook inbox. You are the winner of our Making Connections free motion quilting workbook. I need your mailing address, your email address, and your phone number, please. Don't share it here on the video because then everybody has it. I'm sure no one would call you up or anything, but it's always better just to send that information privately, and then we will get an order into the system for you. Any of you who are interested in purchasing that book, it is on the website just search Making Connections at the top. There's also a quilting books little section where you can click to find all the books. Yay, you're excited. It's a great little book. She's got some good ideas. And like I said, I just love it when someone breaks it down, step 1, step 2, step 3. It just makes it so clear and easy to follow. All right, I'll finish up this seam, guys. And then we will call it a day. All right. Well, despite my weary head because of daylight savings time, today went fairly good, I must say. Huh? I did so. Kicked some quilty butt. So thanks for joining me today, guys. It's always a pleasure. Thanks for sharing your stories about memory quilts with me. I really like to see what other people are up to. And again, please send us your pictures. If you have finished any of our quilts, we'd love to see them. And I always try to share them with Sheila, who has also helped design and write a lot of these patterns. And she's also proud of you all. I just want you all to know that. Watch for the corrections. We will add an edit to the website on the Stash Busters page to address the shortage of a block. And we will also change the pattern for future downloads. Thanks everybody for watching today. I hope you have a wonderful day. And tomorrow, join me for Tuesday Tool Q&A, where we'll be talking about the APQS Lenny quilting machine. And we will see you on Wednesday to start a whole new Stash Busters quilt. Take care, guys. We'll see you tomorrow.